what's your scariest nightmare?
My scariest nightmare? Well, I used to hate snakes. You know, I don't know why. I mean, that's a pretty common fear. And because I'm such a water dog, I'm a waterman, so I've never been afraid of the water. I don't have drowning nightmares. And I don't have really bad claustrophobia or anything like that. But I didn't like snakes for a long time. As a child, I wanted to see cowboy movie at the Saturday matinee with Anthony Quinn as the sort of damaged gunfighter that all the young gunfighters wanted to kill. And I couldn't wait to see all my buddies and say, oh, you got to see this movie, The Man from Del Rio. So I got in line and paid my 50 cents to see The Man from Del Rio, and I got my popcorn and my Geno's bonbons, and I sat down for the 3 o'clock matinee, and they had turned into the grown-up movie for the evening. And I sat there and I watched Norman Mailer's Naked and the Dead, the World War II best-selling novel, turned into a war movie. Now, I liked war movies as a kid. Kids of my generation, we did like, Army movies. But what happened in that movie is one of the GIs in the South Pacific is bitten by a snake, and he dies in his buddy's arms. And here I am. I'm the only guy in the movie theater. My bonbons are melting in my Levi's, dripping into my high-top kids' tennis shoes, and my pennies flannel shirt. And I got a kernel of hot buttered corn stuck in my teeth. And I'm watching the pus from the poison of this snake come out of this soldier's ears, and his nose, and his mouth, and his eyes. Freaked little Robbie Englund out. So little Robbie Englund was scared of snakes for the next year. I looked in the drawers, I looked in my closet, I looked under the bed. I was petrified. Then, when you're a horror actor like I am, and horror genre star, you eventually do your Killer Bee movie, you eventually do your giant alligator movie. I've done 3. You eventually do your giant snake movie. So when I did my giant snake movie, my character was a herpetologist. He was the snake expert, the old snake expert. I'm always the old son. I'm always the snake expert, running around with Jenny McCarthy. And they gave me a baby python to play with. Well, as an actor, I knew this was cool. This little baby albino python. And I would be petting him, like a James Bond villain pets his little pussycat. So I thought it would be cool. And I had to get to know. Well, they put him in a sock. They put the baby python, the little albino python girl, in a sock, and they rigged it with shoelaces. I put it under my armpit. Why? Because reptiles like it where it's warm and moist. So I wore him under my arm, and then in between takes, I take him out and get to know it, and let it curl on my fingers and my wrist. And I remember I kind of fell in love with this little baby snake, and that's when I got over my snake fear. So unless I'm speeding now, unless I'm snuck into the carpool lane, and there's cops behind me, I don't really have anything that scares me. But I'll tell you a story about Freddy. Freddy's entered my nightmares. On the first film, remember now, this is the first film, I'm not a star. I'm in a crappy little Winnebago honey wagon with a little cot in it, and a mirror with those light bulbs around for makeup, and they're on a dimmer switch. The dimmer switch is down 3/4, so there's just a little bit of ghosty light. And it's nighttime. We're shooting all through the night. We do not want light. We do not want the dawn. It's a horror movie. It's 4 a.m, the hour of the wolf. Bang, bang, bang. There's a knock on my dressing room door. Mr. Englund, we're going to try to get this shot with Miss Langenkamp before the sun comes up. And I'm in the Freddy makeup, but I've forgotten that I'm wearing it. And I'm laying on a towel rolled very tightly so I don't turn to the left with the light and smear the makeup. And I sit up, and I turn, and my feet pivot off the cot. There, in a forced perspective, in the half-light of my dressing room, is this bald, disfigured man looking back at me. And I jump, and the old man jumps in the mirror. And I go, oh shit. And the old man in the mirror goes, oh shit. And I realize in my stale, bad, morning mouth breath, I realize it's me. But for those 1,001, 1,002, 3.5 to 4 seconds, I seared in my brain, a little crease in my gray matter. And once every 6 weeks, once every 3 months, I remember that moment. It's become a little kicking nightmare for me. I can close my eyes right now and go there. But it comes back on me and haunts me. So that's my Freddy nightmare. All right, Lo says one more question. Wasn't he great in the Three Stooges? How many times have you heard that? What's the problem? Okay, we're on this up the ultimate question.
In the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie, was there any actor or character in another movie that you drew most of your inspiration on?
I was influenced by Klaus Kinski's performance in Nosferatu. You know, I got some ideas from his use of his hands, and Klaus thrust his neck forward there as Nosferatu. I borrowed a little bit of that for Freddy. Freddy, if I'm Freddy, if somebody calls Freddy, Robert, Freddy. I got that from Klaus. And then, you know, because he's bald in that film as the vampire, that just, it spoke to me on an image level. Jimmy Cagney, I'm not tall, I'm 5'10". Jimmy Cagney was shorter than I am, but he stood strong and his legs straight. So I used that a bit too. I think there was a strength in that. And I found that, and that was just, I must have watched PBS one night and just got that idea, because he was wearing a fedora like mine. And this was he was dressed, you know, in a jacket or a sweater, and a pair of socks and boots, and some gangster film. I got a little bit from that and there. So those were two influences. And then, you know, and this is a long answer, but I love this because I'm so right about this. And I'm one of the first people that caught it. There's a great film from the 70s called The Little Prince, starring Bob Fosse as the devil, as the snake. And Michael Jackson must have seen him as a child, because Michael Jackson's entire persona and choreography is from Bob Fosse, The Little Prince. If you see this movie, buy me a drink next time you see it. Also, there's a movie called that our parents all watch called The Patrol, starring John Raitt, Bonnie Raitt, who was just on the Grandy's father. And it's about the unions. It was a big hit musical on Broadway for years. There's a famous number in it with Bob Fosse's wife. And in this number, it's also it's called Steam Heat. It's also Michael Jackson choreography. This is 1952, I'm talking, and 1975, I'm talking. And I love the fact that Michael Jackson probably, after he watched Soul Train and talked on the phone with Fred Astaire, put on TBS and found these movies, and it went through the channel. And it's a great American passion. It's a great American channel. Little Michael Jackson from Gary, Indiana, watching old Hollywood movies and putting them through his body like medicine and borrowing from these great people and turning it into his own original choreography. So, now you've heard who Bob Fosse is. All that jazz, Bob Fosse. I know that without Bob Fosse, there's never been MTV or music videos, because the very first music video is in a movie called All That Jazz. And it's a commercial. The character played by Roy Scheider from Jaws, playing Bob Fosse, is directing in the movie. He's directing a backers audition for a commercial. And when you see that number in All That Jazz, it's cut to the beat. First time anybody ever cut to the beat. So it's tiny pieces of editing. Before that, they flipped the camera right. Poor Fred Astaire and Jim Kelly had to dance for 5 straight minutes without a single cut. So I'm obsessed with Bob Fosse. Because of All That Jazz, because of Roy Scheider, because of these things that are going to the movies with my mom and dad when I was a kid, and because he's such a talented guy. Well, Bob Fosse's signature style is asymmetrical. Remember I told you about the gun and the rape, and that's asymmetrical. That line is called asymmetrical. This is even, I believe. This is asymmetrical. This is asymmetrical. So I took from Bob Fosse. It's like Michael Jackson. I just took a little bit of his genius's asymmetry in movement, and I used it with Fred. And Fred is scraping the blade along a railing. I dance it just a tad, just a hair. And that's where I got that inspiration. So Klaus Kinski, Jimmy Cagney, Bob Fosse, and being jealous of how young and beautiful Heather Langenkamp and Johnny Depp were. And that's my long answer. Thank you.
This video is sponsored by the Crazy Kings of Toys. Check them out for all your toy needs and find out why they are so crazy. Find them at Amazon, eBay, Bricklink, and Facebook. Links are in the description. Toxic Pop has a new Facebook page. Like it to see pictures and keep informed about our upcoming events and videos. A link is in the description. Go to www.facebook.com/toxicpop1.